You know, in the last session we were talking about the local church, and when you look at the New Testament, the majority of references to the church are talking about local bodies of believers. At the same time, there's a clear picture of how local churches are all together part of the global church, and that's a perspective that is essential in every Christian's life and every church's life, to realize, all right, there's a bigger picture going on here, and God's got a grand global plan that is much bigger than just my life and the church that I'm a part of right here.
Yeah, I was actually confronted on that. After I had started church, I was there probably 5 years, and this guy asked me one day, he goes, you know, in your purpose statement, everything else, it's all about this city and this church. I don't see anything about the rest of the world. And I was like, wow, you're right. You know, biblically, that's not right. The believers were aware of the other situations and helping believers in other situations. And I'm telling you, once I started getting the church focused on Christians in other places and the needs that they had and how we could actually, once again, give and help those needs. We've been given a gift as a local body to the church at large. Man, that's when the church came alive. I saw people in the church just get so fired up and use their gifts, you know, to help people in other areas. And it was like the joy level in our church like rose so many notches, because there's something that fires you up about being able to help someone rather than just receive. It is more blessed to give than to receive. It just really is. The happiest people, they're the givers. You know, it's just this love compels them. They start giving. I mean, to feed like a bowl of rice to a kid who wouldn't have gotten a meal. I mean, it's like, wow, you know, to see the smile on their face, you know, and helping the poor. I mean, that's a rush. Or to teach, you know, believers in other places that are just soaking in and going, I didn't know some of these basic things, whatever that gift is of yours, to use it even in a global context.
It's so key, because a lot of people think that, well, there's so many needs right around me, we don't need to spend time caring about all these needs around the world. But the reality is, when we really start getting serious about needs around the world, the Lord uses that to open up our eyes in an entirely new way to needs right around us. I know in the church that I pastor, some of the most fruitful ministry we've got going on in Birmingham right now is birthed out of time overseas, where people have gone overseas and seen and been a part of ministry in different contexts in the world, and then realized, man, I can do the same things right across the street. And so it's not an either or, it's always a both and. And so I want to really encourage folks, if you're walking through this with a disciple, with a small group of people, to really intentionally help them begin to think about how to pray for the nations and how to pray for the global church, and to integrate that into how you're teaching them to pray. And when you're praying together, like, is it just praying for, you think about it, even in the weeks you've been walking through this, has most of your prayer time together been focused on just what's right in front of you, or are you praying for God's kingdom to come in the world and our brothers and sisters around the world who are facing all kinds of different challenges, some persecuted for their faith? So praying, and then giving. How can we use our resources to serve our brothers and sisters? And we're some of the wealthiest people to ever walk planet Earth, and we've got brothers and sisters who are starving. So we've got to, in discipleship, think about intentionally how can we give, and then maybe even, I think one of the most effective tools in disciple making is short-term missions. The whole point of short-term, going somewhere else, is to help serve the body there or help advance the gospel there in different ways. But in the process of you going with somebody that you're discipling into a context like that, there's so much transformation that happens in your life and that person's life. I always tell folks, I can accomplish more in helping somebody grow in Christ in 1 week overseas than I could in a year back here, because there's so much that can be done. So maybe even to think about, is there a way where you and the person or people you're discipling could go into some other context and be a part of the spread of the gospel there and build that into what you're doing?
Yeah, and there's even a sense in which there may be some local things that they could do, so you're not having to spend all the money. You know, you just have to think through and help work through, okay, when is it right, when is it good? But even in my context right now, I'm working with a lot of people that are, you know, ex-addicts. There's some that still live on the streets. They feel like they have nothing. They're in government assistance. And yet when I'm showing them what's going on in Ethiopia or, you know, Cambodia, it's like, wow, I'm not so poor. I can actually help these people. And it's actually been a sense of healing for them because they're thinking, wow, I've just been looking at myself thinking I've got the worst situation in the world. But now I'm looking at these other people and going, gosh, I could actually help them. And it's crazy because that's the very thing that's helping heal them. Where they go, wow, I have a purpose in life. This is exciting. I can actually save what I was going to spend on, you know, this meal or whatever else, or this drink, and that would actually help save a life. It's this joy that I'm seeing arising in their life.
And you know, bring that all to one other critical point. And all of disciple making, this whole picture revolves around the gospel. And there's nearly 2 billion people in the world today who've never even heard the gospel. So the person or people you're discipling need to know that, and together for you guys to feel the weight of that. There are millions upon millions of people who haven't even heard the good news of Christ. And so that means built into disciple making, we've got to be thinking, how is my life going to count for the spread of the gospel to them? And this is the beauty of disciple making. So with this grand global mission in the world, how can we be a part of making the gospel known to the ends of the earth? And Jesus says, make disciples. When we're making disciples, this is his plan for how the gospel will spread to the ends of the earth. So all the more confidence to give yourself and to lead the people you're discipling to give themselves to this mission, making disciples, because this is how the gospel is going to reach the ends of the earth.